Welcome, everybody, to the World of Dragons podcast, a podcast where a dragon and his rider get together to discover, review, and discuss dragon-centric media and literature, including but not limited to books, movies, shows, and games, to help you dragon fans find the next World of Dragons you wish to visit. I am your host, Ray, and here is my little writer, Phantom.
Hi, guys.
And I immediately forgot I was going to try to do the Brixaby voice. I will have your cards. I am Ray, the Almighty. Tremble before me. But yeah, so this week we're doing the third book, which came out as of recording, not as of publication, like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think. Pretty much almost exactly as we recorded the last episode, because I remember Bantam was itching to get to it.
Holy shit, yeah.
But yeah, the next one is scheduled to come out in August, I think like 4 days after my birthday, I think. So that'll be fun. I'll jump on that. There's not going to be a whole lot of spoiler-free discussion, because this is the third in the series. But we're just going to go over, I guess, a couple points real fast without spoilers, just because I think there might be a few prospective listeners that didn't start reading book 1 or 2 yet because they wanted to see us talk about book 3 for the sake of like, well, they claimed the dragon was going to become a bigger deal. Does it actually become a bigger deal?
Yeah.
Right? So, Bantam, last episode I said that the dragon doesn't play a big role in book 1 or 2 because he doesn't get him until the end of book 2. But we're hoping dragons are a lot more center stage in book 3. Is that the case? Does that happen?
I'd say so, yeah.
You would now call this an actual dragon story?
I would say that a good 20-30% of all the characters that are in book 3 are dragons.
Yeah. There are a lot more dragons. So obviously
with a lot more lines.
Yeah, Brixaby and Joy are there. We even get a couple chapters from Brixaby's point of view, which is great. But there are a lot more named dragon characters in book 3 also. So I would definitely consider it a dragon book now. It definitely did take a while to get there because the entirety of book 1 is like just Arthur by himself, right?
Yeah.
So it takes a while to get there, but very definitely a dragon book now. Another thing I want to mention in the spoiler-free part, before people like stop and go read it themselves, even though this might be considered a spoiler, I feel like it has to come up. The book has infanticide. I can't say the word.
Infanticide.
Yep. So basically a big trigger warning there. I imagine the author was trying to be super edgy, or thought they were really clever because by having that in there, obviously the stakes are high, and oh look, the readers are invested because it's actually bothering them. Haha, I'm so good, right?
I mean, you sound super mean about it because I think in context it worked, but that's your opinion and my opinion.
We'll get into it later, but it's definitely trigger warning there for people that might not be okay with that.
Yeah, if you love babies, there's a part in the book that'll make you very upset.
I guess I might cut this out. Everything is too much spoiler. Should we tell them it's baby dragons specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, it's baby dragons, and I imagine the author's like, it's not that bad, they're just dragons. But of course, for us dragon fans, that could actually make it worse. So there you go, trigger warning.
And so, again, I want to say that is, in my opinion, a little unfair to the author. I don't think that it was the author cackling, going, "Haha, I'm trying to be edgy."
That's exactly how I viewed it in my head, though.
I know, but I don't necessarily think that was his plan. But I think in context, yes, it did seem like it was trying to elevate the stakes, but at the same time, it made a lot of sense in context.
Stay with us after the break, where we debate this more in full. But no, like I very rarely leave reviews on my audiobooks on Audible. I should do it a bit more often, but it's easy. I always go like, yeah, that was 4 stars. Yeah, that was 5 stars. Yeah, that was whatever. I very rarely actually leave a written review, mostly because when there's like 1,000 of those, I don't think I'm ever gonna get seen anyway. This is my review show. This is where I can tell people my opinions because I know they're coming for my opinion, right? But yeah, no, I actually left a written review on this and being like, hey, it's good, I love the world, but holy Jesus Christ, why do you have to go with this plotline? Yeah, it really, really bothered me. Okay, but we'll get into that later. Um, I think that's all the pre-spoiler touch-up we need to do. I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, I feel like that's
Yeah, most of the stuff we said last episode still pertains to this one.
yeah.
Writing style, characters, world building.
If you are listening to this episode without having listened to the last episode, then one of two things: either you don't care and you just want to hear us talk about the plot, or you already read it and you're ready to go on book 3. But if
Yeah.
you
If
think
you're the 5% of new people who just listen to the latest thing first, just go back and listen to the one before this, because it's basically more or less a part 2.
yeah,
Alright, so, quick little musical number. Boop, boop, boop. And then, yeah, welcome back. Really fast opening. It was only like, what, 6-7 minutes this time? Yeah, like 6 minutes. No tangents so far.
Should I do the Dragon news that we're changing the schedule?
Are we changing the schedule?
Yeah.
I don't remember changing the schedule at all.
We were going to be doing Dragon Island after this, but we're changing that.
Oh, no, that's at the end when we announce next time.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't
Well,
worry about
because
that.
in previous episodes we did say that we were going to do Dragon Island after this, so.
I mean,
Okay, whatever.
But yeah, really threw me off my train of thought there. It also sucks. I have like 3 pages of notes, and I only have one monitor while recording because my microphone that hangs from the ceiling sits literally in front of my other monitor. The way things situated. So I'm gonna cut all that because after the break, we were supposed to do the synopsis, the whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, so I'm gonna cut all that. All right, welcome back from the break. Really fast this time, only like 6 minutes. No tangents. Like I said, this is a part 2, so it's really eager to just go straight into the spoiler discussion. But before that, as we started during the last like 2 or 3 episodes, we have a little synopsis for those of you that did not really care to read it. You just like listening to us talk, which is valid. But here we go. Several months have passed since Arthur's close run-in with the king, and his training as both a dragon rider and hive leader have progressed, if at slower rates than he would like. Often simply saddled with hive paperwork, and training with a formation that is either afraid or flat out does not like him, progress is slow and frustrating. Scourge eruptions are continuing to become more frequent, and during the most recent eruption, Arthur is tasked with defending a noble's card library to prevent Scourge from feeding on it and spawning another demi-scourge. It is during this mission that Arthur and Brixaby run into a group of wild dragons and are then kidnapped by them, along with Cressida and Joy, and brought to the raiding dragon's free hive, which exists outside the bounds of the kingdom in what should be Deadlands. There he meets Laird, the dragon that gave him his first legendary card so long ago, who happens to sit on the council of this free hive along with a handful of humans. The hive is pacifistic, living in a place where Scourge can't feed and so have no desire to swarm that way, doing their best to stay out of the remaining kingdom's periphery to keep their peaceful, cowardly ways. Arthur, Brixaby, and even Cressida are targeted for assassinations by the Mindsinger, who is furious with Arthur over the destruction of her sister's card. In an attempt to fight back, and to get the members of the Free Hive to defend themselves against this mind-controlling threat, Arthur and the gang launch a raid on a cache of combat cards. Laird joins them towards the end, and they split the spoils, just in time to weather a full-on assault on Mesa Hive by the Mindsinger. After repelling the attack by dispersing many of the liberated combat cards amongst the denizens willing to fight, Arthur convinces them to counterattack, launching their own assault on the mind-controlled hive the Mindsinger has set up residence in. He briefly returns to Wolfmoon Hive to enlist help there as well, but it is short-lived. The counter-assault succeeds, if barely, allowing the Mindsinger to escape after swapping bodies with a white dragon, but the controlled hive is freed. Now, with the Mindsinger who knows where, thanks to portal magic, and new enemies in the Free Hive councils who disagreed with Arthur's plans to get involved in the conflict, Arthur and his retinue decide to travel the world looking for power or artifacts that could help them in a war against the Scourge.
One thing I'll say is you said Mesa Hive, it's Mesa. And
Mesa.
that is an actual proper term, so you can't just say that.
I know it's a rock formation in a desert usually. But yeah. I should find some like really, really soft gentle music to put behind the synopsis Just put people to sleep. But yeah. So, initial thoughts when we get off your chest before we start going through our bullet points?
Yeah, so in your synopsis, you described the Free Hive as cowardly and pacifistic. I wouldn't say that they're either of those things. They haven't really needed to defend themselves, so being a pacifist is actively avoiding war, whereas I don't really feel like they did that. They just they're kind of just doing their own thing. Like,
Oh my god.
existing in a place where the Scourge doesn't want to be, in my opinion, isn't really pacifistic, especially considering a pacifistic would imply that none of them would help him fight when they were given combat cards. Two, cowardly, I mean, that's just mean.
Yeah, okay, so obviously that was me putting my own little thoughts into the synopsis, but whatevs. Sorry, I actually forgot how to drink for a bit, and Capri Sun went down my windpipe.
Oh my god, now it's on recording.
Now
He
it's on
pronounces Capri Suns as Capri Sun. Shame
come
him.
at me.
Send an email.
Contact
shaming
details
him.
in the show notes. Come at me.
He does this all the time.
But yeah, no, they are flat out pacifistic. Like, that's not even me just trying to insinuate stuff, because they do actively avoid combat. They don't want to. They're like, it's none of our business. We're going to stay out of it. This is not our concern. The kingdoms can deal with that. We're out here living peacefully. If we try and get involved, then bad stuff is going to happen. Like, that's the whole reason why they don't let anybody have combat cards, and that's the whole reason why they get so freaking mad at Arthur when he wants to get involved.
So counterpoint, when he's distributing the cards, lots of people take up cards and start fighting. It's the council.
So
the council is pacifistic. The people are not. The council is...
Most of the people are not. There were some that, when given the choice, they ran or hid rather than tried to fight.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. The Free Hive is made up of people that became disillusioned to the way the Kingdom Hives are run. This could be as simple as a dragon who lost their rider and didn't want to be forced to bind with a new one, so they left, or people that just didn't have any good skills, and therefore, because the kingdoms very, very highly value really powerful combat card skills, because that's what they need to fight the Scourge. So if you have a useless card skill, then you're kind of low on their social hierarchy totem pole. So those kind of people also left, but then just people that just didn't want to fight, people that just wanted to live peacefully and not have to worry about being in danger all the time, left to go join the Free Hive because they can live peacefully there. So there are a small group that are pacifistic, and unfortunately the leadership seems to be mostly mad at those. But yeah, in general, do you like the Free Hive?
I do, yeah.
Like, would you rather live there rather than one of the actual hives in the kingdom?
Yes, absolutely.
You coward.
I listen, all right? If I get a combat card that is essentially like I can shoot a firebolt, I don't know why I always resort to that one, but like something borderline useless that would take 30 shots to kill someone, and they're like, you have a combat card, here's a dragon, the moment that bell rings, go fight to the death. And it's like, no, I don't want to. I would want my dragon, and I would want to live happily ever after with it. Sorry.
Well, this is not the world for you. You gotta go to a more noble world that has no world-ending calamities on the horizon.
Yep.
No, but yeah, so, I don't know.
I
always imagine myself being big and strong enough to throw my weight around, which means, like, yeah, I could be, like, pretty high-ranking in a militaristic society because I myself would be strong. So, but
well, if you let me have the cards that I want in this world, then I would definitely, yeah, see. Ray wants to make it so that I'm weak and then force me to fight, and I'll die.
I don't want to make it that you're weak. You just want to have a mythic card that says you're immune to everything.
Yep.
Which is like, no.
Yep.
You can't play with Cheat Engine, I'm sorry.
I can.
No. But no, so the thing is, like, regardless of people that just want to live quiet lives and all that, like, yeah, that's fine. That is a very valid goal in life, to just live quiet and peacefully and just tend to your crops or work on your craft or whatever. The setting of the world itself, it being constantly under threat of life-ending infestations, basically. It's like, I'm sorry, but this kind of setting, you don't get to be peaceful in your own little corner, tucked away, watching everything burn around you.
Okay,
Because
here's the thing, though. There's multiple kingdoms, and only one of them is being attacked. If you don't live...
no, they're all being attacked.
No, they're not. It is expressly stated in the book when Arthur, obviously after he's gotten some time in the Free Hive, he finds out that there are other kingdoms, and he comments that it's strange that the scourge eruptions are only happening in the kingdom he came from.
No, I don't remember that, and I don't think that's the case.
And I was like, damn. Because I remember he said something about maybe she would have kept her promise to move the scourge eruptions to a different kingdom. Like, they are specifically attacking the kingdom that Arthur came from.
Damn, it's a shame this wasn't like a physical book where you could have like bookmarked that to point it out to me, because I don't believe you. I'm pretty sure I would have remembered if that was mentioned. I'm pretty sure every kingdom is being attacked, and in fact 2 of them have fallen, which is why there's only 5 mythic dragons left. The problem with audiobooks. Anyone who has a page number, let me know. Contact in the show notes. But whatever. Either way, even if it's not the whole world, if it was just their kingdom, that kingdom would still fall under the same thing that I said, where they don't get to live peacefully and quietly. Your whole way of life is under attack. You can't just sit back and watch other people do it for you. Because if you do that, you sit back and the people that are fighting start losing, then hey, guess what? Your whole way of life is dead too. So yeah. I will admit that one thing that I did like about the new hive, the Free Hive, was just the way they treated dragons, I guess.
Yeah.
They were more like people and less like living weapons.
Yeah, the kingdoms treated dragons as beasts of burden that were useful. They basically, dragons only had as much rights as their riders' rank allowed, and they were kind of just like, all the purples, the only thing you're good for is courier work, and these ones, the only thing you're useful for is this, blah blah blah. Whereas the Free Hive, dragons were free to pursue arts and crafts, pursue their a trade or whatever. They were allowed to do whatever they wanted based on if their card was good for tilling earth, they'd go till earth or whatever. But it was cards were a lot more easily obtainable. Like, they had the little ceremony where once you joined the hive, you were given a card.
Oh my god, I have a whole little rant on that that's gonna make me lose fans. I know that. But yeah, so I like half agree with everything you just said. Like, I don't. Hold on, let me think how I want to word this. As far as how the dragons were treated, it's not that I'm so happy that they are no longer being judged on the strength of the card and they get to just do peaceful stuff. No, I don't agree with that. Like, judging them on the strength of their card, it feels weird to like you and probably the average reader, whatever. But again, for the way the world was built, I'm sorry, but because of the way the card magic works and with the card being a part of their core, there is a actual physical measurable difference between a common and uncommon, or an uncommon and rare. And so, yeah, it makes sense that a rare is going to be better than an uncommon. Like, yeah, they just get to be higher in the totem pole because they were just born better. Literally, they were born better. They cannot change that. It poisons their core. I feel like it may have tried to be a really weird commentary on, I guess as far as humans go, noble birth, where people was like, this noble was born above you, and like that's fundamentally wrong because everybody's technically, quote, born the same. It's just really random happy lucky happenstance of their birth. But like for dragons specifically, no, I'm sorry. Fundamentally, one is born better than the other. And yeah, dragons are 100% meant to fight Scourge, so they should be like fighting and whatnot rather than sitting around and doing fuck all. what I meant when I said I enjoyed how the Free Hive treated them more like people, it was just a lot of small things, like how in the Kingdom Hives, they call young dragons hatchlings. They refer to dragons as beasts, and stuff like that. They purposefully use not pronouns, but like descriptives to that are different from what they would use for people, just to try to separate them. Like Arthur is caught off guard when someone calls a dragon young children rather than hatchling. He's like, why do they just keep saying children? They're hatchlings, aren't they? Like, it's just so ingrained into Arthur's mindset that dragon young are not children, they are hatchlings. So just the small differences like that, like they are being seen as equals on the grand scale of like life, rather than being forced to use different words, especially when people would always say like stuff like get your beast under control, or this beast is angry, or whatever, or like just keep him fed and happy and he'll behave, stuff like that.
Yeah. No,
That being said, I still prefer calling dragon young hatchlings rather than children, because I like the term hatchlings.
Yeah, I greatly prefer the Free Hive, the way they treated the dragons, the way they lived their life. I mean, as I said, I still fundamentally disagree with you that they are pacifists, because if and I say they as in the entire collective, let's say 50,000 people live there, and you say they are pacifists, then none of them would have taken cards. So you can't really call the society pacifist when they're being actively held back from being anything but pacifist.
It's weird, because while I agree with you, the majority, like, there was a small group willing to fight from the very beginning. This was the group that was following Laird. But the majority, I feel like, only really took up the cards to fight because their home was under attack. If the majority, wanted to be fighting and wanted to not be sitting on the sidelines, I feel like there would have been some sort of like civil unrest trying to like convince or even overthrow the current leadership, because, hey, we're tired of sitting around here just watching all this terrible stuff happen. Let's go and fight and help out some of the kingdoms.
Okay, and counterpoint to that, none of them would have followed him through the portal to the other hive. Then they would have been like, "Well, we defended our home. Good luck." But a lot of them were like, "Yeah, let's take the fight to them."
Again, because they were just attacked. I mean, the example I want to use is something I don't want to bring up, because I don't like bringing up real life stuff on the show. But it's kind of like how, actually, this is a better example. In like World War II, America did not want to get involved. Like, the people of America did not want to get involved until after Pearl Harbor. And then they're like, yeah, fuck them. Let's go. Like, we were attacked. We're not going to fight on their turf, because how dare they?
Okay, I get. Yeah, I guess so.
That being said, I love seeing the dragon crafters. I love crafting. When I play an RPG game, I spend too much time crafting.
That's Ray's forte.
It's a running joke that I have more hours in Skyrim than Bantam, but I've never beaten the game because I always just get distracted by blacksmithing and mining and stuff.
You absolutely do not have more hours in Skyrim than me.
That's why I said it's the running joke. The point is okay. I played Skyrim and just did nothing but craft. In Final Fantasy 14, I did nothing but crafting and gathering. Bantam did more than me because he just wants all the checkmarks of getting things max level. But like, crafting, just, I feel it in my soul.
Yeah, and that's why the absolute perfect game for us would be kind of like a Stardew Valley, except replace farming with crafting, and then I go into the dungeon to get materials and Ray crafts. That's it. That would be the perfect game.
Yep. Something like Ricketeer, Item Shop Tale, whatever it's called, where I get to man a shop where I sell the stuff that I'm crafting, and he's out in some dungeon gathering the reagents for me.
The fact that in this free hive, Brixaby, here's another thing. One of the things I really liked about this book is that Brixaby is kind of becoming his own character. Like, he has his own little side stories in this one. He decides, you know what, I'm going to take up crafting. He sees a suit of chainmail and he's like, I want it.
It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and then he's like, he talks to the blacksmith who's crafting it, and he's like, you, teach me to make stuff like this. And the blacksmith's like, yeah, sure, fuck it, whatever. So he gives Brixby, lessons, which Brixby immediately goes into his time-stop mine palace to continue crafting. until he gets himself a migraine.
Hmm.
But in probably what is a couple short days, he's already exceeded the blacksmith. And I really liked that, as arrogant and like arrogant in a good way, but like as the personality
Dragons
that,
deserve to be arrogant.
well, yeah, but the personality that Brixby has, where it's like, I'm the best, fuck all of you. The fact that
I'm a legendary. Of course, I'm the best.
yeah, he starts crafting things for other people, and like his mentality is that I'm so great that I need to elevate everybody with me so that, you know, they can be worthy of my greatness. So essentially, imagine, you know, you're playing an MMO and somebody invites you to their party and just starts giving you money and items that are really powerful, because I can't be seen with people walking around looking like you know, whatever. And
Hmm.
I really liked that Brixby, in his own arrogant way, was like, I'm going to craft the most amazing armor you've ever seen and give it to you because you belong to me. And I love that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Brixaby is evil, though I guess there could be a discussion there if he's considered neutral evil or not. But that's also a really good way in D&D to play an evil character. Is you don't need to be like greedy, selfish, everything's mine because I'm the only one that matters. Your party treat your party like your retinue, and you must bestow upon them pieces of your greatness. There was a game I played where I got to play as a dragon. It was beautiful, and that's how we kind of got around the dragon's tendency to hoard things. Was, well, these are my most powerful minions, and I want them to keep succeeding because they make me look good. So rather than taking all this treasure and just sitting on it, I'm gonna let them use it because then in return I'll get more treasure down the line as they keep kicking people's butt for me.
Yeah. Uh, so I almost talked about, I almost kind of skipped over a major plot point. Um, you know, so Arthur is brought to this free hive, he's captured by Laird. Um, and while he's getting used to life in this new hive, because he's kind of under vague threat that he has to stay here. Um,
Yeah, they call them guests and whatnot, but they're prisoners.
they're prisoners. He's given magical cuffs that are supposed to suppress his card powers, but while he's watching a carding ceremony where the council give cards to people who have agreed to stay with them, he gets attacked by an assassin, and the assassin misses because, like, even though he's got the cuffs on, he uses his phase in, phase out ability, which,
Yeah, basically the cuffs were rare quality cuffs, and he's legendary, so you could power through them.
yeah,
So he
and
managed to like phase through the cuffs.
and so the assassin misses him, but accidentally stabs Joy, and the knife was coated with a necrotic poison, where basically if you get cut, you're going to die. Like,
Imagine
there's,
no context. People just hear Ray laugh when Joy gets stabbed.
yeah. And so you know, for those who have listened to the last episode, Joy is a very happy-go-lucky, you know,
So bubbly.
so bubbly,
She is
plucky.
the characteristic manifestation of the color pink.
Yes, and so she gets this poison, and they figure the only way to stop her, because they don't have high-level healers in
Yep.
there, and so the only way they can stop it is by taking the cards from the assassin and putting them in Joy's core, which could kill her, but she's going to die anyway. And that forever changes Joy's personality, because those cards become part of her heart and therefore part of her. And one of her arms turns green and gets venomous claws that are dripping with necrotic poison. And as someone who is very touchy feely, huggy, this is very dangerous for everyone around Joy, because she just wants to hug everybody or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So Brixby actually started, like, one of the first things he does is he makes a chainmail gauntlet for Joy, so that specifically Joy can, you know, hug and be herself without worrying about accidentally killing everyone around her. And I thought that was incredibly fucking sweet.
Yeah, it was really. I wouldn't go so far as to call it tender, but it was kind of a tender moment of Brixby's character development himself, that he would build her a glove just so she could continue to like hug people. Though he did kind of mask up beneath the "I don't want you poisoning my rider" or anything kind of deal, right? But no,
Yeah,
but yeah. On the topic of Joy, yeah, she gets a a poisoner's card in her heart, and so now she's spicy. She's spicy pink.
Yeah, she's still happy and bubbly, but with like a
A
little
little bit
like
of an
a
edge
little
to
bit of
her.
an edge to her, to the point where she's like, God, I can't wait to kill people. And
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
like,
I want
oh,
to. Like when she first like wakes up and like looks at her like her claws, she's like, "Oh, this is amazing. This will be great for killing people." But oh no, can I not hug anyone anymore? Oh, it's like such a really weird like duality of her personality now, and it just works for the whole book. It's great. It's definitely. I feel like it made Joy better.
it did. It made Joy a more likable character to me, because I can only, you know me, I can only handle happy bubbly so much. The more talkative someone is, the more energetic and outgoing they are, the more they are a drain to me,
Yeah. So
because
you would hate yourself.
I'm very introverted and I don't care about talking and long conversations.
Lies.
With you, it's different, but with total strangers and other people, I'm not very talkative. So, uh, but yeah, like this change to Joy made her more likable to me.
Yeah, and I love the way it kind of plays off of Cressida's personality, because the entire time she's worried that Joy is going to be different, that she's not going to be her anymore. She still loves Joy, and she comes to accept Joy as she is now, but she's like, yeah, she's definitely got a bit of a spice to her now. And like one of my favorite scenes, and it's really, really small, is when Joy comes back with like 15 dead rabbits and the 2 dead deer or whatever. And she's like, oh yeah, I got a quest to go kill a whole warren of rabbits. It was kind of weird, but whatever, I did it. Here we go. I got dinner. And like take some of them, and I think like they're already dead. She doesn't snap their neck, but she does something to like start eating them or prepare them or whatever. So like I feel like she breaks some bones to like start skinning them or something. And Cressida just has to go to the bathroom to vomit, because Cressida is like really
She's very
sensitive to that
sheltered.
kind of stuff. Yeah,
Well, she's very
very
sheltered. She's a
sensitive.
noble. She's never had to see the gritty realism of things like this.
But she also finds those things kind of cute.
Yeah.
She's almost an animal summoner as far as her cards go, so she probably finds the little rabbits cute. It's like, oh no, here they are dead and gonna get eaten right in front of her. It's like, excuse me.
Yeah. So yeah, Brixby makes that gauntlet for her, and then he also makes a suit of armor for Arthur that has a little shoulder pad that Brixby can perch on, because Brixby's still really little.
Yeah, that was kind of cute when he makes Arthur a set of armor, because he wants Arthur to be safe, and he wants Arthur to just if Brixby thinks that chainmail is literally the most beautiful thing ever, and this is a wonderful set that he himself made, he wants Arthur to wear it and show it off to the whole world, right?
Yeah.
So he makes Arthur a suit of armor, tells him to put it on, and it's like, he must never be seen without it when we're in combat or whatever. Oh, but it needs one more thing, and then puts a little leather pad on the shoulder so he can perch on it, because he likes to ride on Arthur's shoulder.
Yep.
Which is cute.
Which is adorable, yeah.
Yep.
So, the Arthur, the Mind Singer said after the assassination attempt, the Mind Singer basically sends, was it they sent emissaries, or was that after the dungeon? Oh yeah, Arthur was just like, we need combat cards. And so they decide that they're going to go to the dungeon, because this free hive raids other kingdoms frequently, or at least gathers up lots and lots of cards.
Yeah, it's a really weird, like, perpetuating cycle of a deal that they have with the kingdoms. Basically, they exist outside the kingdom's purveyance, reach of the law. I don't know what purveyance probably works, but in exchange for being left alone and not being like immediately reconquered and forced to vassalize underneath the kingdoms or whatever, in exchange for being left alone, the kingdom essentially hires them to raid some of their more rowdy and upstart nobles, anyone who may be getting too much wealth to where they could start threatening the crown or whatever. It's like, hey, during a scourge eruption, go over here and raid their card library, take all their cards to like drop them down like several pegs. You can keep all the utility stuff, but just give us back the combat cards in the future as like some sort of tax.
Yeah.
And then in turn, the crown then hands those combat cards that they get back to nobles that they still favor, and it just becomes a self-perpetuating cycle forever.
Yeah.
In fact, Laird mentions at some point that he's seen the same card show up like 4 or 5 times, and he's just sick of it.
Yeah. And so I don't know if it's that they just store them temporarily in this dungeon, or if they skim some off the top and put them in their dungeon. But essentially, the Free Hive Council takes combat cards and then hides them in a dungeon that is basically supposed to be impossible to beat, unless you have the key. And that's where they've been stockpiling them. And when Arthur finds out about this, um, he is like, "All right, let's go get those cards." And so him and Cressida, Joy, and Brixaby go to this dungeon and start fighting in it.
Really fast before you go on to the explaining the storyline of the dungeon, let's just talk about the concept that the dungeon exists, that this is it. Every lit RPG needs to have a dungeon show up somehow,
Yeah.
somewhere. Because a lit RPG, by definition, is a genre that takes all the video game tropes and puts them into a book, into a fantasy world where they are a fact of life. Stuff like stat sheets and quests and an excuse to have monsters randomly spawning or whatever. And like, here we have it. This is the dungeon. There are apparently some cards in the world that allow people to craft dungeons. They're called dungeoneers. And they are flat out used as a way to give experience to nobles.
Yeah, they describe that basically a dungeoneer can create a dungeon where, for example, it's just nothing but snowballs being thrown at you or something. And that way you have like a fire shield, and the whole point of nobles hiring dungeoneers is, hey, I really want my son or daughter to practice this one card. Make a
Yeah.
dungeon where that one card is useful, and that way they could just go in there every day and practice. But they also have the
Because
ability to become vaults.
Well, because they can put whatever they want in them, and it just so happens you can build a dungeon to defend something. So I think there are some people that use dungeons as a way to protect some of their assets, like besides the free hive, like there might be one or two noble lords that do that. But yeah, just to touch on the whole gaining experience thing, it's because a lot of the high-ranking cards tend to have like a weird level system. Like Arthur himself, his entire cards are level systems. As he does stuff, he gains levels and gets better and gets stats, right? But there are other cards that do similar things. Like if you got a rare card for, let's just say, shooting a fireball, the most basic thing ever, right? It's like as you do that, the card itself will level up, and you'll be able to it'll cost less mana, or you'll be able to make the fireball bigger, or the fire hotter, or whatever. As well as the simple fact that any skill, no matter what, you just need practice using it, so you can learn the extent of your abilities and get to the point where it's muscle memory and you can just call on it instantly. So yeah, when nobles want to train their children, especially if they're going to be children that they try to get to buy into a dragon later, because there's some prestige that comes with that, let's go to the dungeon and literally run a dungeon to grind XP. They actually use those terms in the book, which I thought was hilarious, and I want to know what you thought, Bantam. If that's so stupid, you just got to shake your head sadly.
My initial reaction was, this is really stupid. when they were when Arthur's like, a dungeon, and then Cressida explains what a dungeon is, I'm like, of course there's a dungeon.
As someone who's read several lit RPGs, I saw this coming a mile away, and the entire time she was explaining it, I was sitting there cheering, yeah, the dungeon, it's here, hooray! I was expecting it, and it's so great. But this was the first time Bantam's dealt with a lit RPG that had to find a way to shoehorn dungeons in.
Yeah. Well, because I expected it to be like an actual dungeon, like a door set into a rocky cliff face, like a dungeon. But the way they explain that it's like a rip and space, like a little tear that you can only see the dungeon when you're standing in the exact right spot or something like that. So not only that, but the dungeon itself is hidden. So it made me feel a little better about it, because it's well, the whole world could be full of dungeons, you just wouldn't know.
Yeah, it's like in World of Warcraft, when you get close to a dungeon, you can kind of see the swirly blue vortex of the door.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's in that case, it's kind of like a treasure map. It's you have the map that leads you directly to the door, and then you go in and the treasure's in there, if you can, beat whatever it is in there or whatever. But yeah, the dungeon in this one is just waves and waves and waves of scourgelings. The exact same scourgeling, which is described as kind of like the cross between a horse and an ant. So just armored horses, and each wave gets progressively worse. I think the first wave was, what, 4? One for each of them?
I think so, basically, yeah.
Yeah, and then it was like 8, and then like 30, and then 100, or whatever. But halfway through the dungeon, or a little bit more than halfway through the dungeon, that's when
Yeah, I think they
Laird
just
shows
finished
up.
6.
What?
I think they just finished wave 6 when Laird
Yeah.
shows up.
Laird shows up with Shadow, and Shadow is part of his retinue, part of Laird's retinue.
Yeah,
He's a
Shadow was from Wolfhive. He was with Arthur for a bit, but then once they all got kidnapped, a couple other people were kidnapped with him. We just didn't mention that because they weren't really super important to the grand scheme of things.
yeah.
But Shadow was one of the ones that got kidnapped with him, and pretty much immediately switches sides and swears his fealty to Laird instead. It's like, no, yeah, I'm going to work for this guy instead.
I think he was already working for Laird.
No, I don't think so.
Didn't he say that he was like, because he asked if Shadow was a spy for the kingdom, and Laird's like, no, he wasn't. He was never a spy. He sympathized more with our cause than yours. But that implies that Laird knew him even while he was at Wolf.
No, that was given as the excuse for why Shadow switched sides. He's like, because when it turns out that Shadow's not working for Laird, he's like, was he always just a spy? He's like, no, but he was just sympathetic, so he was willing to jump over.
Okay, I guess. To me, that could be interpreted either way. But so Shadow and Laird end up helping the gang fight off the remaining waves. And then the final test is only one person is allowed to go into the dungeon. And I was like, yeah, of course. And at that point, Arthur has to come up with all sorts of silly bullshit ways to get everybody into the vault. There are a lot of times in this book where I feel like the author really fucking stretches the the rules. A lot of times like, oh, can you do that? And it's like, oh yeah, it doesn't say you can't in the card, and it's like, all right. But Laird puts Cressida and Joy in a magical rune sack, which is kind of like his little personal space, and then Arthur puts all of them in his personal space, and that way it's just one person left, and he's able to go in.
Yep. They circumvent.
They circumvent all the rules of the dungeon, which to be fair, they did state that a dungeoneer has to determine every aspect of the dungeon, including, how fast the wind blows and what, the clouds and time of day or whatever. And
yeah,
it's like I
the
can't imagine.
The dungeon it's borderline a light novel because he's got to try to account for as much as possible.
Yeah, and so I can't imagine how stressful it must be to be a dungeoneer hired to create the ultimate dungeon.
I think it'd be fun. I had a little, yeah. I had a thought when they were like going through and explaining exactly how a dungeon crafting card works and how it could be used to grind XP. And I'm like, that's what he needs. He needs XP. That's the whole way his card works. There was a little thought in my head that, wow, are they going to find one of these dungeon crafting cards and the book is going to just suddenly shift genre into being dungeon core? It wouldn't. I'd be for it. That'd be interesting. But like, wow, what a direction that would go in.
Yeah.
Bantam, in case you don't know, and other listeners who don't know, the dungeon core genre is a book written from the perspective of a dungeon. It could be the perspective of the main boss, and he's just building a dungeon. It could be literally the dungeon itself is sentient, or just in some way, and the book revolves around the building of a dungeon, putting enemies in it and weathering attacks from heroes. It's like if the game Dungeons, or Overlord or whatever, was written as a book.
Being forced to read a book where a sentient dungeon is describing what's happening in it would probably be the worst thing ever for me.
I'll find one to have us do for the podcast.
Oh.
There's one on my wish list where the dungeon core, but the dungeon it's a dungeon core book, but the dungeon theme I think is dinosaurs and like other very large reptilian monsters. So who knows, maybe dragons sneak their way into that too. But I'll scout it, and if it's any way decent or completely undecent, I will. Well, because we need to review some bad stuff eventually.
Yeah.
But I'll force you to do it for the podcast.
I mean, we have. Knight's Fire was pretty fucking bad. Mating Flight was really bad.
Maiden Flight was amazing.
Tooth and Claw was really bad.
Tooth and Claw is almost perfect.
So yeah, they get access to the card library, where they're able to basically have the pick of the litter for whatever they want for combat cards. And that is where so everything leading up to this point, has kind of just been like peaceful humdrum nonsense, right? Like nothing major or scary aside from the assassination attempt, which is dealt with really quickly,
Yeah,
has
I mean, at
been
one point they do a 2 months time skip, just them just living in the hive.
yeah. So it's like nothing crazy has happened since then. But as soon as Arthur comes out of the dungeon, there's 3 dragons standing there waiting for him.
I think it's 4.
Is it 4? Yeah, wait. There's
It's totally
Digger,
4.
and then there was the blue and the yellow.
I don't
Maybe it
know
was
what
4.
colors they were, but there were 4.
Oh, but they're waiting for him, and as soon as he comes out, they basically announce that they're emissaries from the Mind Singer, and that they have a message for Arthur, which is that they are going to make his life hell. They're going to kill and maim everyone that he loves and cares about until he is left a broken shell of a man, at which point he will consider death a mercy. And
To be fair, Brixaby ate her sister.
yeah. And now the funny thing about this is that I had read the book within the first 3 days. I just plowed right through it. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, he read faster than me, guys.
Yeah, and
Bantam read faster than me.
Ray was really into Shadow. Really liked Shadow.
Dude, so I was into Shadow and Laird. I was sitting there like, these are my 2 new dragon husbands. I'm gonna find an artist to commission art of me just with those 2. It's gonna be great. And Bantam's trying really hard not to spoil. He's like, you should wait till the end of the book before you choose your husbands, I guess.
And Ray was like, why? And I'm like, oh, in case another dragon shows up that you like. And he's like, oh, that's fair. And I'm like, whew. Dodged the bullet.
And then we get to this part, and I just pause my audiobook, look at him like, Shadow's dead?
Yeah, so basically what happens is that this shows what happened. Like, it's been threatened multiple times throughout the entire series that a dragon that is, let's say, uncommon cannot have a rare card in its core or it will die.
Yeah, it also cannot bind with a rider that has a rare card in his heart deck.
Yeah.
I think it might even include in their anchors. I don't think they can get a rare card ever in that situation.
Yeah. So Brixby mentions the rarity of these, that they're all uncommons, and so that they're not a threat. However, one of them opens up its mouth, stands on its hind legs, and spreads its wings, and releases a sonic blast that is so powerful that it literally, like, Cressida has to use her shield. Arthur basically has to phase in, phase out through the whole thing. And a bunch of other people get put in pocket dimensions to get them out of the blast. But the only one who doesn't make it is Shadow. And he literally just gets torn to shreds. Like, imagine...
He gets vaporized.
Imagine from the I think it's Terminator 2. It might have been the first one. I
don't know. I haven't seen it.
That scene with the person holding onto the chain link fence and then the nuclear blast goes off.
Okay, I've seen that clip for memes, yeah.
That's basically what happened to Shadow, and it's pretty fucking horrible.
Later on, they get their hands on the card, and it describes itself as the sonic blast can be forceful enough, if you put enough mana into it, to break the molecular bonds of stuff that it targets. And Arthur's like, I don't know what a molecular bond is, but I think breaking it is a bad thing.
Yeah. And so Shadow dies, and it's kind of sucks. It's like Shadow was a really good character. I loved his voice. But
the voice was definitely the narrator saw the name Shadow and was like, okay, I got to do a voice of someone who's dark and mysterious and probably is up to no good.
Yeah. So, again, Luke Daniels, amazing narrator. But at that point, the dragon that did the blast immediately starts dissolving. Like, the poison of using a legendary card in an uncommon body, you finally get to see what it means to have a dragon be poisoned by a higher tier card.
Like, the thing is, the dragon was already dying because the core was already poisoned. It's just that using it, like, expedited the process.
Yeah. And so the dragon dies, and the second dragon scoops up the card to then do a second blast. But Brixby charges at the dragon and goes up its nose, which distracts it enough that he's not able to do a second blast, and they're able to kill the dragon. And you find out that the reason why Brixby went into his nose is because as he was charging at the dragon, he got his danger sense from Marion went off, and he realized if I pluck the cards out of this dragon's heart, I'll die. And so he goes up the nose. And when that dragon dies, they end up capturing the third dragon, who I already said his name is Digger. He becomes a character later, but they capture him. So essentially, they have won. And when they look at the cards on the secondary dead dragon, they realize that it had a trap card called a sword. A sword cuts both ways, where if the card is stolen from the heart by any means, the person who stole it dies as well as the person that owns the card. And Arthur realizes that the Mindsinger was playing 5D chess over here, hoping that that would kill Brixaby. And that basically fired up Arthur. Like, the Mindsinger has to fucking die.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another point in the book where I was like, yeah! Because, like, seeing how enraged Arthur got over an attempt on Brixby's life was like, he really honestly loves Brixby, and I love it.
Yeah, it's also a little refreshing because a lot of times people try to write their heroes like no, we can't kill them, we must understand them. And like before this, there was the very real threat of Arthur, like eventually, not necessarily befriending the Scourge, but like discovering some like deep truth, like the Scourge are necessary because of this reason, or they're not that bad because of that reason, or whatever. Like, I felt like it was already leaning towards that a little bit when he was making the deal with the Mindsinger in the second book. Like, oh, some can be reasoned with, and even the King's dragon, the mythic one, Longbai, even she was like, yeah, some Scourge have to just be dealt with, and talk and diplomacy and all that. And there was this really real threat that turns out the Scourge aren't all bad. They just need to be treated this way or be given this much whatever. Secret plot twist: the dragons are the bad guys because they're doing something that would also end the world, and the Scourge are trying to stop them. Or some really, there's a lot of bullshit that could have gone on. So it was just refreshing that the hero in this sense, Arthur, isn't like, no, we can put our differences aside and we can talk to the Mindsinger and forgive each other. It's like, no.
He's like, you tried to kill my dragon, you need to fucking die.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, do it. At which point Arthur returns back to the Free Hive, and when he gets the next day, the Mindsinger's thralls are circling above in the sky. They think that Arthur died.
Because they were completely expecting that plan to work.
Not Arthur, the legendary dragon. They think Brixby died. Remember, they don't want Arthur dead.
I think they were planning on killing him at the end there. Like, as far as killing all of Arthur's friends and everyone he loves, they were all right there. It was Joy, Crescent, and Brixby. They were just going to kill those three first and then kill Arthur. So yeah, I think they expect the whole group to be dead.
But they definitely, at the very least, thought that Brixby was dead. Yeah. And so they basically were told, hey, we'll go get the combat cards for you. The council was like, all right, we'll pay you off in combat cards. And the Mindsinger's like, okay, we accept. And as soon as the major council members leave to go get the combat cards, the Mindsinger attacks. So the Mindsinger's a fucking manipulative asshole too.
Always was.
And at that point, that's when Arthur starts handing out combat cards. And
it's kind of weird. I gave a summary and you're still trying to go through the book piece by piece. We did the summary to avoid the piece by piecing.
Okay. Real talk, and please cut this. What else are we going to talk about? If you gave the entire plot of
the individual scenes that you like, you don't need to.
To me, the episode would end in 45 minutes if we did that.
Ooh, smacking my microphone. Whoop. I don't know. Well, let's go back and let's talk about Laird for a bit. He's such a big deal. He's
Oh,
literally the dragon from the tutorial, and we were like last episode. We were just talking about.
You were talking about how much you wanted Laird to come back.
We need to see how this dragon come back because I need to know what his deal is. Like, is he just a wild dragon? Was he like the dragon of somebody that like it couldn't have been like Arthur's mom's dragon because she obviously was not a writer, but it definitely also hinted at that a little bit. Like, was he the legendary dragon that his mom was going for when they're like, remember that noble woman that was a legendary candidate? What was her name? Lottie and whatnot. Like, was that Laird? Was he that legendary dragon? Is Laird legendary or whatever? Right. Point is, there was a lot of unanswered questions about the dragon from the tutorial, as I like to call him. And then, sure enough, hey, we get to see him. He's Laird. He's not legendary. He's only rare. But he's still such a badass. He's going around kicking butt, taking names, putting more hearts in his cards, more cards in his core, and he's my new favorite dragon.
I will say that we made predictions at the end of the last episode, and Ray's saying that he really wants more of Laird, or the dragon from the tutorial, because we didn't know his name at the time. And
so I get a cookie.
So Ray gets a cookie, and all of my predictions did not come true. I was so sure.
No cookies for you.
I was so sure that Penn Rowantree was going to team up with the Mind Singer, and Penn Rowantree was only mentioned in passing in this.
He was not a big deal for this book at all.
At all, and yeah, I was like, damn. Shit, there was something else I was going to mention.
There was something that I just remembered that I probably should have mentioned at the beginning during the 6 minute of pre-spoiler, because one of my predictions was also like, this book, I get the feeling this book is going to be filler, because the story is supposed to revolve around Arthur in the kingdoms and becoming the hive leader, and then according to the back cover splurge on this thing, he's going to discover a free hive outside the borders of the kingdom and stuff there. So, like, this book will be filler. It's going to be book 14 from Wings of Fire, if people know what that is. But do you consider this book to be filler?
No.
Probably not.
No, here's the thing.
It definitely feels like it for, like, the first half.
This book infuriated me toward the end, because I honestly was hoping and expecting that the Mind Singer would be fully dealt with.
Phantom wants some tied up loose ends.
I want some tied up loose ends.
The loose ends are unraveling into more loose ends.
Yeah, and I don't like it. I really don't. It's just not the way I prefer things. But
it feels like this is going to be like a 7-book series at least.
Yeah. But I remembered what I was going to say earlier, which is that after I had finished the book, I had to kind of vicariously live through Ray going through the book. At one point, I couldn't take it anymore, and I went back into the book to where he was and put it and started listening to it with him. And then every time something major would happen, I'd look up at him, and he'd be like, "Oh," like every time Laird showed up, like when Laird showed up in the dungeon, I was listening with Ray, and I look over at him, and he goes, "The husband is back."
Dude, Laird is my favorite. He is the perfect mix of, like, arrogance. Too much arrogance can definitely become difficult to deal with. But like all dragons, because dragons should be powerful, all dragons deserve to be a little bit arrogant. He was that perfect mix of like, yes, I know I'm powerful and amazing, but, still likable and like whatever. I respond very well to confidence and assurity, which is why I tend to like arrogant dragon characters, because they're confident. Like, again, I'm going to use Wings of Fire as an example again, because it is the most popular dragon book of our day and age, apparently. Darkstalker, everyone doesn't like Darkstalker because of reasons, and that's fair. The reasons they don't like him are valid. I love Darkstalker because even though he was an asshole, he just had that confident assurity about everything he did. He knew what he wanted, and he went out and did it, and he had the skills to back it up, and just wonderful. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I respond to, and that's why I tend to fall for villains, because villains usually written that way.
All right.
So yeah, Laird is my baby. I wish we see more of him. Very, very sad that he's not going with Arthur at the end of this book. He's staying back in the Free Hive, which makes me go, meh. Laird was like part of Arthur's retinue for the final battle, and I didn't realize you could just quit being a retinue rider. That doesn't make sense. Why? No, you're stuck with Arthur now. You got to go with him.
I don't think he ever established that he was part of his retinue.
I feel like it was mentioned once, like even if it in passing. Like I think Brixaby said it, and that's probably just because Brixaby wants everybody in his retinue. But like he, Digger, and the Silver, whose name I forget, they were all considered part of Brixaby's retinue for the ending there.
Yeah.
Tanai, that's his name.
And then the Silver was like, well, I'm done. Bye. And
Yeah,
Digger
all
was
three
like,
of
I
them.
just want to dig. And
I just want to dig.
Goes back to his owner.
Yeah, poor Shadow, though.
Poor Shadow.
I liked Shadow.
All right, so let's talk about the infanticide.
Okay.
So Arthur repels the attack on the Free Hive, decides to go through the portal to attack the hive that they're coming from, where the Mind Singer is.
Really fast. So at the beginning of the episode, we were debating on if the hive was pacifistic or not, and I'm like, well, they only went to go and attack the Mind Singer because their home turf was attacked, and then me citing World War II and all that. Another reason they attacked, their eggs were stolen.
That's true.
Yeah, the attack on their hive, on their home turf, the Mind Singer took all of their eggs, just kidnapped them all. All their eggs are kidnapped. A lot of the brooding mothers went with them, quote, willingly, because they just don't want to leave the eggs behind. If they can't kill the scourge that are taking the eggs to protect them, they just don't want to leave the eggs unattended because that's like abandonment. And so yeah, all the females of this hive were like in an uproar and like, we're gonna go tear their freaking heads off and get our eggs back, right?
Yeah. Even Joy, who's never had eggs, it's like, I guess, a thing
Joy
with female
being upset
dragons.
about it was adorable in its own way.
Yeah, so apparently female dragons, regardless of whether or not they've had eggs or not, are so protective about eggs that even though Joy's never had eggs of her own, she's like, they took the eggs! I'll kill every fucking one of them!
And the thing is, like, some of the guys, like Brixaby and I think someone else, it wasn't Leia. Leia was like, no, be careful around the females or whatever. But like, they're like, what does it matter? They're just eggs. And she just looks at him like, how fucking dare you?
Yeah, she looks at him like, I'd attack you if it weren't for the fact that you were a legendary and my friend.
Yeah. But it's like, the apparently dragon instincts have the females really, really, really protective about the eggs. And apparently the instinct happens where once the egg hatches and they're now a baby dragon, a hatchling as I like to call them, even though apparently that's demeaning. Apparently after they hatch, the females don't care anymore, and now the males care.
Yeah, the males only care because when they're alive and out of the egg.
Apparently, in the wild, like before humans got involved, I guess, and started doing their own little hatcheries and nurseries and all that. Apparently, in the wild, females would brood over the eggs, and then once the egg hatches, now the father's responsibility, and now the males look over the hatchlings, and so that's the way their instincts kind of shift.
Yeah.
Because later on, when they find a bunch of baby dragon corpses, that's when the guys, the males in the group, all start getting like really huffy and angry.
And so, one thing that we breezed over in the summary is that Arthur does go back to Wolf Moon Hive briefly to recruit some of them to help against the Mind Singer. And what's his name? Whitaker?
Yeah, Whitaker.
Whitaker, who is one of the two legendaries from Wolf Moon Hive, who has always kind of just been like a fucking dickhead. He is the only one who believes in Arthur and is like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. Let's kill some fucking scourgelings.
Yeah, I think like he believes him just because he's bored out of his mind and wants to go kill something.
Yeah.
Like, that's apparently a personality flaw of his that, what's her name? The other Valentina keeps like bringing up like, yeah, Whitaker just wants to go and kill stuff. He never should become a hive leader. He should have just stayed a soldier with his stupid friends. You're going to have to look after him, blah, 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 blah. So like that's definitely going to be one of Whitaker's biggest fallings.
So Arthur, wants to have a battle plan, but Whitaker's like, fuck that, and just goes through a portal. So Arthur recruits some of the scholars to create...
Not scholars, they're the mind mages, the white dragons.
The white dragons, rather. To create cards that basically resist the Mind Singer's influence.
Mind shield charms, basically.
Yeah. And so when they go through, of course, when Whitaker goes through with his little army, they almost all turn. And Whitaker is like, he led us into a trap, he betrayed us. So this book did not close any threads on any of Arthur's enemies. It just made more. Because by the end of this book, Whitaker now wants Arthur dead. The king definitely wants Arthur dead.
Well, we don't. The king is a big question mark. According to Valentina, Whitaker does this a lot. Goes to complain to the king, so the king could just like whatever Whitaker's being a baby, ignore him. Or the king could be like, "Yeah, I'll do my due diligence and I'll call Arthur and we'll talk to him and whatever." The king is up in the air. It could go one way or another.
Arthur makes it a point to avoid the king, and that's why he ends up leaving.
Yeah.
So, and then you also have the Mindsinger still out there, Penroentry's still out there. The council from the Free Hive now doesn't like him because he did essentially steal from them.
He's a meddler. He stole from us and meddled in our affairs and turned our own hive against us because now they want to go and fight Scourge.
Yeah. So anyway, when he ends up in the other Free Hive, the one with the Mindsinger in it, they uncover basically a place underground called the Amphitheater where the Mindsinger has made her little base of operations.
Yeah, so it turns out that the Mindsinger is stealing eggs because she wants to farm baby dragons.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you remember that when dragons come into the world, they come with a new card in their heart. And like when they eventually die, that card persists, and that's how new magic enters the world, right?
Yeah.
So she's letting the baby dragons hatch, and then immediately killing them to harvest the cards and feed to her little Scourgeling army. So when they get to this amphitheater area, the entire time they're passing by just eggs that are being brooded over by mind-controlled females that are starting to get sick with the Scourge, by the way. Put a pin in that and come back to that later. But when they finally get to the amphitheater, it is just filled with the discarded corpses of baby dragons that have had their heart cards stolen the second they were born.
Yeah. It's rough.
That upset me to no end, and it's like, Mr. Arthur person, I don't remember.
Honor Ray.
Honor Ray.
How do you not remember?
I think it's, I couldn't remember, I don't know. I'm just really, really bad with names. I'm struggling to keep all these dragon names in my head
But
right
his
now.
name is yours. It's Honor, and then Ray, R-E-I.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's a guy or a girl. I should probably look that up. Really fast. Hold on.
I always honor Ray.
Yes, honor me. Their icon is a fox? That doesn't tell me anything.
Yes, Taryn. That is what that means.
Yeah, so everyone on Amazon, you go to an author's page, they have a little icon about the author. Honor Ray's picture is a curled up fox taking a nap, and about the author says, "I spend my days drinking coffee," quotation marks, "with more creamer than coffee, and writing fantasy stories where the numbers go up and up and up and up and up." So I still don't know what gender Honor Ray is. I don't know if it's
their gender is fox.
Their gender is fox. Whatever. Mr./Mrs. Honor Ray lady, that was a terrible decision. Like, ooh, yeah, infanticide. Look, it worked because you cared. You got involved. The stakes are high. Ha ha. Evil cackle from their dark mansion. It's like, no, this kind of stuff is taboo for a reason. There's a reason why game developers like Skyrim again don't let the players kill children. It's like, let them have the freedom if they want, is what the argument is, and sure, whatever, but they don't want to have like that on their hands. So it's generally turned off. It's one of those taboo things that should stay taboo. Like, you don't need to be harvesting dragon children. If you need to threaten it, then sure, but like to actually like show like the actual literal pile of corpses is fucked up, and it's like, what is wrong with you? Like, I still love your story, but yes, what is wrong with you?
I'm just gonna say that I fundamentally entirely disagree with you, but I mean, the only reason why games like Skyrim and Fallout don't let you kill children is, and they've stated this multiple times, they just don't want to deal with with people complaining, and they make it so easy for you to check a toggle in the creation kit when you're making mods to just make children killable. They can still be decapitated. They can still be blown up. They just don't want to be the reason. Like they're the ones who are putting the dynamite stick and the match in the same room with you, and not and saying, "Hey, when we leave the room, whatever
Right.
you want to do is
But
fine."
the point is, they understand that it's something that's taboo. They understand there would be backlash, and that's why they don't flip the switch themselves. They understand that it's a bad thing,
But
and that's my point. It's a bad thing.
you didn't have a reaction like this in what was the Wings, was it Wings of Fire or whatever, the one with the three dragons that went on their own separate little stories, when the main character fucking tore that kid apart and ate him. You
That
didn't have
okay.
a reaction at all.
So there's a slight difference between this is actually how they live in the wild, and I'm going to farm you and basically abort you the second you're hatched, right? There is a difference.
I okay, yeah, there's a difference. I still think that yes, it was fucked up, but and yes, it raised stakes, but at the same time, I don't think that they did it with, like, fuck all you readers
No, they're
intent.
probably not actually sitting there in the little mansion with the dark storm cloud and lightning crackling and they're cackling with their shadow up on the wall. No, I'm definitely cartoon vilifying them a little bit, but still, it's like, come on. You didn't have to go that far. And the worst part is, okay, so people that listen to the show obviously love dragons as much as I do. That's why they listen to this show. I love dragons arguably more than people, okay? Has to do with like a whole
I
like weird
definitely
little
do.
yeah, it has to do with like a whole little dragon soul thing, which I don't want to get into right now. But what bothers me the most about this is I'm imagining, this is an imagine, okay? If they come and they talk to me and they like apologize and they say no, I did it because whatever. I'm imagining they thought this isn't that big a deal because they're not people. This is okay because they're only dragons. And Sky do this has to be the can't talk. I'm so upset. It's the same kind of line of thought behind other people when they'll they'll build some sort of combat RPG or a shooter or something, but they don't want you to go and mass murder like 100 people, so they make the enemies some really weird alien or a robot or something like that
Uh,
where you're not meant to have some sort of attachment to.
I'm surprised you didn't go for the obvious parallel of playing Baldur's Gate 3, and you're not allowed to murder the tiefling children in the druid camp, but later on you are absolutely able to murder the goblin children in the goblin camp. And it's like, wait a minute, why is the
Because
game
the
hard?
goblins are bad guys.
Because the goblins are monsters, not people. And it's like, dude, they have a society and the language. They are people. Like, it, to me, that was fucked up. Like, why would you allow me to kill goblin children but not allow me to kill tiefling children?
Yeah, they also tried to make the goblin children the comically evil also, like they're
Throwing
borderline
rocks, yeah.
torturing puppies and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But whatever. Point is, the whole dragon infanticide thing upset me for various reasons, and like it actually dropped my review 2 stars from 5 to 3. It's like I enjoyed most of this, but what the heck was up with this part?
So, yeah. Messed up scene. The whole ending gave me a lot of anxiety getting through the chapter 2 that the final battle takes place. There's a lot of magic card fuckery where the Mind Singer tries to swap bodies with Arthur and it fails. So instead, the Mind Singer swaps bodies with a frankly zombified white dragon
Mm-hmm.
that the Mind Singer is kind of like leeching off of. And then so now the Mind Singer's mind is in the dragon's body and the dragon is in the Mind Singer's little
Well,
bat
well,
body.
well. The thing is, then Mind Singer in dragon body then immediately stomped her
Stomps
old
on the,
body,
yeah.
so to kill the dragon mind person, whatever. But it's like I think it's insinuated that the Mind Stinger won't be able to survive inside the dragon body for very long because not Mind Stinger, Scourge and dragons are actual opposites to each other and they just cannot vibe together. So she's probably gonna mind jump again, but that's just how she got out at least.
Yeah. So and once it was revealed that the Mind Singer got away, I was like, God fucking damn you. Like, fuck this book. Like, I was so angry because I wanted something to get wrapped up at the end. Like, the Mind Singer was established as a major villain in the second book, and it's like, what this has done for me is it makes me feel like in the fourth book, nothing is going to change. The status quo will just be shifted again,
The
and
fourth
nothing.
book will be the filler book.
Yeah, and it's just aggravating to me. Like it made me less excited for the next one. It made me absolutely less excited for the next one
Yeah,
because I'm like,
I'm moderately excited because I am excited to see the other kingdom, the other culture, whatever. But as far as like overall plotline stakes, like yeah, no, nothing's gonna happen. This book is gonna be the fourth book is gonna be a completely self-contained plotline, where it's like uh, he gets involved in some political drama with the emperor of this land and whatnot. But he gets to resolve all that in this book, gets the MacGuffin that he's gone there for, and then comes back or something, right?
yeah.
Like it's going to be a completely self-contained plot.
Because yeah, at the very end of the book, Arthur realizes like I can't stay here anymore. I can't go back to the kingdom because the king wants to talk to me.
The thing is,
So
he also mentioned that he could stay. He just doesn't want to
yeah,
because he's no longer eager to basically effectively live Valentina's life. Just a
yeah,
life of several decades of doing paperwork and making sure Whitaker doesn't get himself killed and yada yada yada. The
yeah.
status quo is broken. We need to, rather than just weathering the attacks of the Scourge, we need to find a way to push them back for good.
Yeah, I should also mention that during the final battle, they did manage to snatch a new legendary card, which was actually part of Brixaby's set. So
Yeah, sets, let's go.
Brixaby's legendary card is called Call of the Void, um, which allows him to devour and absorb a card's powers. The new card that he got was part of his set called Call of the Heart, and what it allows the user to do is to get a pinpoint location for something their heart desires. And so he
Yep.
desires something that will help him fight the Scourge once and for
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, what it's like whatever it'll show you it creates a weird little like borderline cartoon looking map, from my understanding, that shows you a general location that gets more and more fine the closer you get to it. You can only update the map once a day, I think, but it shows you the location of an item or a person or a location that will be most beneficial to your goal, desire, or dream, or something like that. So when he activates the card power, he's like something to fight back the Scourge for good. And then it shows him, oh, over here on the other side of the planet, there's something over there. Go find it.
Yeah, which is how the Mind Singer knew where Arthur was at all times, because the Mind Singer was trying to kill Arthur, and so had a location for Arthur pretty much every day.
Yeah.
But you wanted to put a pin in the dragon suffering Scourge sickness.
Oh, just because while we were reading that, Bantam's like, this is the third time the author has broken their own rules. This rare dragon is putting legendary stuff in their heart. That's not supposed to be allowed. Or this other thing that's happening, and now here we have dragons getting Scourge sick. What's up with that? Or whatever. And so
What's the deal with airline food?
What's the deal with Scourge sickness?
The third thing, by the way, real quick, was Arthur gets a card that allows him to fire bullets. They have to be like 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, so basically little round BBs.
It was described 1 centimeter in all dimensions.
In all dimensions, but later on in the book, he is able to use his
throw knives,
and it's like
yeah, that is actually on the fault of the author. The other two things, Bantam was like, wait, what the fuck? They get explained away in a somewhat believable way. As far as dragons getting Scourge sick, it's the Mind Singer was using the psychic powers to suppress the cards that were preventing the sickness, and or it was just the fact that they were living for extended periods of time completely and utterly surrounded by Scourge and Scourge sickness.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads it to be not immunity to sickness, but just a high resistance. Meaning if you were to go with your little dragon buddy out into the Deadlands to live for a while, you would probably eventually get sick over time. I don't know. I feel like it was mostly the Mind Singer was suppressing the cards. The card's resilience effect.
Yeah. But
because she cheats like that.
So yeah, the book ends with Arthur going to a completely new kingdom. And while I will admit that it kind of feels like a refreshing chapter where he basically, I think one of the very last lines is that he's a new face and an unknown name in a new land. He can start over.
Yeah, he's not going to have any of this drama following him. All these enemies he's made. Who cares? This is a new place. I hope chapter 1 of the next book, he immediately makes an enemy. It could be the most stupid thing ever. He's going to knock over somebody's cabbage stand or something. Immediate enemy that comes back to like torment him at the end of the book. No. Like, I just feel like it'd be funny that it's new slate and just immediately fucks it up.
No, I'll save what I think for predictions at the end. But
yeah, But yeah, so New Kingdom, I'm excited because I like for the same reason I enjoyed Book 14 of Wings of Fire. I like filler. I like expanding the world building. I'm okay putting the main plot on hold. So I'm just excited to see another kingdom, see what they do with this culture. And
Here's the thing though. If this book if book 3 was filler and they didn't go fight the Mind Singer, but everything else happened, they just didn't fight him, I'd have loved this book. I'd have been okay with it. But the problem is that they put a major plot point at the end and then didn't resolve it, and that pissed me off.
which major plot point? There
The
were like
fight with the
5.
Mind Singer.
Oh,
Like if everything else happened except for the Mind Singer attacking the Free Hive,
except for the Mindsinger. Okay, I
except
understood you to say if the book was nothing but Mindsinger, like forget the whole
no,
Free
no, no.
Hive politics stuff or whatever.
No. If
Okay.
if everything except the attack on the Free Hive happened and going to, whatever, then I'd have been fine with this book, because at that point it would have been filler. You can have little stabs of drama with like the assassin attack or the dungeon, but you know, it, the fact that the Mind Singer, who is basically the big bad, and they're like, we're going to go on this epic war and it's going to take 4 chapters, and then nothing, status quo, except a lot of people are dead on both sides, and it's like, god damn it.
But yeah, on the topic of the Mindsinger real fast, I'll talk about the other nation during the predictions part because that is the prediction. But as far as the Mindsinger goes, another thing I didn't like about this book, like again, I still love the world, I still love the dragons and the characters and all that, but like hand in hand with I hated this book because of the killing of the dragon hatchlings. I also hate this book because the entire villain was a mind control villain, and I hate mind control. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. There have been a couple episodes where I've ranted about How to Train Your Dragon is a good movie, but the second one can go fuck itself because how dare they bring mind control into it, right? Like it is the dumbest way to make people do anything, right? And it completely usually invalidates character growth. And while that wasn't a problem here, because everybody mind controlled were faceless nobodies, so there was no invalidation of character growth. It's not like Cressida got mind controlled at some point and tried to kill him or something, which, but no, that would have sucked. It's just I just don't like the concept of mind control. I don't like the concept of taking away a character's agency, even if they're a random nobody NPC. The fact that this scourge can just move into a hive and just mind control the entire damn thing, start harvesting children and whatever is like complete and utter bullshit.
I mentioned in the book that I'm writing that Ray is going to be a character. You are going to be a character. And you're going to be a semi-important character that kind of is in the background in a couple points. I think I'm going to include a little bit of mind control.
just to make me upset.
It'll be something completely inconsequential. Like the main character will really want something, and you're gonna be like, "No, that's mine," and then I'll be like,
Okay.
"Mind control,
Okay,
give it to me."
Real fast to just address something that one of our studio audience, our $5 patrons, who listen to us record live, one of them in the chat just asked me, "What about mindless hive-minded entities?" They give the example of the Borg from Star Trek. I know very little about the Borg, but I understand what they mean with hive minds. Something like the Zerg, for example, or the Tyranids from Warhammer, or whatever. Hive minds are a really weird place for me, because while they do essentially function the same way as mind-controlled entities, they weren't taken over, usually. The Borg are taken over, and so I'll talk about the Borg in a second. But like the Zerg being a hive mind, for example, is okay, because that's how they're created and how they kind of function. And it's like, I don't know. It really depends on how it's done. Like there's a way you could do it where the queen of the hive literally controls everybody like puppets, which would be like a little unoriginal to me. Or it could just be like you're an individual that lives in a hive mind, which means you just are always connected to your queen, and she can just, give you orders, and it's more or less up to you to like follow them still. There may be like an urge, like a deep instinct or whatever. It's kind of hard for me to explain, and that could probably be its whole episode where I just spend like an hour talking about hive minds in general. But
I think what you mean to say is that if it's a race of creatures where hive-minded tendencies are natural to them, that's fine. But if a person were to walk into a group of people and just mind control everyone, that's where it's fucked up.
Yeah. So like,
if they're born into the hive mind.
Borg, the example of the Borg for Star Trek, don't like them because they are a conquering hive mind rather than a natural one.
Yeah.
If they were just a machine intelligence hive mind and they didn't assimilate to anybody, which destroys the whole concept of the Borg, I get it. But if they were just like their own thing, I'd be a lot more okay with it. I do not like the idea of a sapient entity losing its free will.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. So shall we talk predictions? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Let me look through my bullet list real fast. We kind of jumped around everywhere. 4-month time skip at the beginning was not as bad as I was expecting, considering we had a 5-year time skip in the first book at one point. I just don't like time skips usually because I want to see what happens. Like the time skip at the end of the last physical book we read, the Scales of Fate, I think was what it was called. It's like, I don't like that time skip. I wanted to see him become noble. But yeah, dragon crafting is really cool. I like dragon crafters. Oh, right. Okay. Time for another rant by Ray, one that's going to make me lose fans. The Free Hive is very communistic, and I don't like that. Let me first preface this by saying that my opinions on fantasy worlds in no way reflect my opinions in real life, okay? For example, very obviously in real life, slavery is bad. I do not condone slavery. It should never have happened and should never come back. That being said, in a fantasy world, I love the idea of a lesser race being enslaved to a greater race. I love the idea of dragons having kobold slaves or even human slaves. I just love all this really weird stuff. In a similar vein, in real life, class systems are really, really troublesome, with, how the upper class looking down upon the lower class and like peasants and nobles and all that, right? But in fantasy worlds, I love the idea of reading the book from the point of view of main character who is a noble and has a bunch of servants that bow and scrape to him. It's why I enjoyed a lot of the scenes in the last couple books where Arthur would like ask for directions from somebody and they would notice that he's a legendary writer, which obviously means he's noble. So they start going, "Oh, of course, sir, right this way." Like, that feels good in stories. All that's to say, I understand when I start tearing this apart, does not reflect my real life opinions, right? I don't like that the Free Hive is basically communist. I do not like how they just handed everything out to everybody. When you come of age, you get a free card. Hooray! Free cards! Free... have it! It's beautiful, it's wonderful. It's like, no, I actually like the way the Kingdom Hive did it, where you have to earn it. I feel like it means a lot more if you earn it. Even if it takes you like 4 or 5 years of working in a kitchen to save up the shards to make your own card. I feel like that feels much better than you just getting it handed to you for free. And the fact that the Free Hive also doesn't have money, because everybody just does their job and then gets what they need to survive afterwards. It's like, oh, just go... It's a very socialist/communist kind of society, which, sure, for real life could be kind of fun. I know Bantam wants that because he doesn't want to have to work to get what he needs. But, like, again, in the story, it's like, I hate that. It's so dumb, it's so boring, and it's so, like, ugh. I don't like the Free Hive. I don't like the way it's run. I don't like the fact that it's a council of people rather than a single tyrannical, I'll go ahead and say tyrannical, entity. Like, the kingdoms are better because they have the king in charge of everything. He makes all the decisions. Granted, the king is insane, but that's an argument for a different day. There is actually a scene later towards the end of this book where the council freaking votes. They vote on if they want to, like, take part in some... I don't know, what was the vote for exactly, Bantam?
What was the what?
The vote for exactly?
I think the vote was... I don't remember.
Yeah, they were voting on something. I don't remember what it was exactly either. I just know that Laird was on Arthur's side, and he voted in favor of Arthur's proposal. But the other leaders, who are all human, and humans are just lowly, cowardly beings, which is why they all voted against this, they voted nay. And even Laird says, like, well, you heard them, Arthur. I was outvoted. Like, he very obviously doesn't agree with it, because how dare he be a dragon, let's face it, much more powerful than any human. That's whatever. Dragons are born with cards and humans just steal them. How dare he be told what he can and can't do by a bunch of cowardly humans because he was outvoted. Like, I hated that. I think it would be much better if Laird was in charge of the Free Hive and that was it. Whatever he says goes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I feel like I need to defend myself just a tiny bit here. Yes, I don't want to work for I don't want to work for everything that I get. The goal for all societies is to reach a point where people don't have to work. And Ray says, well, someone has to work, and it's like, well, that's why you replace it with machines. And
He just wants to enslave the machines.
The goal of every society is to reach Star Trek levels of whatever, where you can work a job because it's your passion and you want to, but nobody is forced to work. You have a machine that you can push a button and it'll give you food and water, whatever the fuck you want, and you don't have to work for a living.
Yeah, Fabricator is the most fantastical things about Star Trek. But it's like, yes, of course, obviously, real life, that would be great. But in a book, in a story, in a fantasy setting, it is so boring. I'm so tired of that trope. Everybody's writing fantasy books nowadays where it's like, monarchy is evil. Down with monarchy. Let's set up democracy. We're gonna overthrow the king and put a council in his place. We're gonna make it so people can vote and everyone gets this. It's like everybody's doing this now, and I really don't like it. It's like, personally, like, again, from a fantasy standpoint, I like monarchies. I like kings. I like nobility. I like barons and dukes and feudal societies and all of this. So it's just, this is me just being tired of the trope of tear down the kingdom, put up a democracy. It's like, no, just let me have my kingdoms, god damn it. Stop trying to build your little perfect society in this fantasy world that you've created. Like, I get you're sick of the real world, but now you're starting to have that bleed into fantasy, and I hate it.
Yeah, I'll never agree with you on
and
this.
no one will. It's just me being very niche with what I enjoy reading, and The only other bullet point to mention real fast, Tanai, he has 2 mates. Dragon polygamy confirmed. A+, thumbs up, all the way. Yes, Trace Nicks, all hail King Ray. Alright, before predictions real fast, since I mentioned that Laird was my favorite dragon, Bantam, who's yours?
Mine is Joy.
Joy? I thought you said yours was Digger before.
It is. I do like Digger. I like the fact that he's just a big, brutish, dumb fucking, I just want to dig dirt. But he's also probably gone from the story, so I'm going to say Joy.
That's surprising. You didn't like her that much in the second book? She really did a 180 after she became a venomous.
After she became slightly more venomous, yeah, she did a 180. Again, like I said, I don't think I could handle somebody being so, like, happy-go-lucky all the time, mostly because at that point I'm worried that things that I want to do that are considered quote-unquote evil, she would be like, no, you can't do that. But now I feel like she'd be like, yeah, let's do it.
Let's go kill someone. Unfortunately, Dilettante's not here. Let's guess. What do you think his favorite dragon would be? He'd be like, there's no Draco, so I can't have a favorite. Sorry, because he's just such a simp in that way.
At that point, he'd probably like Laird.
No, Laird's mine.
He'd probably like Shadow too.
He can have Shadow. That's fine.
They're red dragons. I feel like Dilettante's that shallow.
Sorry, my computer's making sounds, and I have to make them whenever I hear them. Alright, so I guess predictions then. Bantam, predictions, hopes, and dreams for the next book.
All right. Well, they're in a completely new kingdom, so I highly doubt Penn is going to show up because it's not really...
What if he is there? What a shocker that would be.
Yeah. Anyway, my prediction is that... Shit, I had it, and because this is why I go on tangents, by the way, Ray, because my thoughts and ideas are very fleeting.
Yeah, I get that too, because there'll be times where you are in the middle of a tangent and I'll have something to say like, oh, that's a good point, but I think, and I would want to jump in, but I don't. I kind of want to let you finish the tangent, but then you go on for 10 minutes and then I lost my thought. So what we both need to do moving forward is have a little notepad open, and when we have a thought to interject, we just write it down real fast.
Yeah.
We'll try and start in that next episode.
Well, I guess my prediction is it's going to be revealed that he's a legendary card wielder really fucking early. He's going to fuck up, or someone's going to have a card that...
There's going to be a silver dragon, maybe.
Yeah. But as far as major plot goes, he's going to uncover why all the kings of all the kingdoms are losing their minds.
He's going to uncover why all the king's horses couldn't put him back together.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. I don't know. You immediately made me think of Humpty Dumpty when you said that, when you started saying that line for whatever reason. Like, yeah. That's where my autofill went.
But, yeah, it's already been said that basically every kingdom has a ruler that is losing their marbles. And, there's probably a reason for that. Like, beyond the fact that they don't want to give up their power, because it was stated, like, none of them want to abdicate the throne, so they're becoming older, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He'll probably end up disposing of this king, and...
I don't think so, just because that implies killing off the mythic, and we can't afford to lose any other mythics.
That's true, you're right. I don't know, at least he'll probably, uncover, like... The thing is that the reason why he's in this new place is because he has a quest that has no expiration date that he got from Joy, because Joy has a meta card that gives quests. And the Call of the Heart card led them to this kingdom that he thinks is tied to the quest, where it's to help an old ally. And the thing is that I racked my brain trying to think who could the old ally be.
I was so sure it was going to be Laird, and that was the whole point of this book. But no, the quest still stands, so
the quest still stands, so it's somewhere else. And the thing is that everybody he's ever known has been in the kingdom. And so it's like the previous kingdom. So it's like
it's also like the list of people who helped him is very small.
Yeah, so it's like it can't be Red, because Red doesn't have any cards, wouldn't be able to cross over the Deadlands.
Yeah.
The list of friends, like there's the chef guy who is his boss,
Barlow.
I mean, he's obviously doesn't have grand ideas of moving kingdoms, so it's like I can't think of who the fuck it would be, unless it's that silver dragon, or was it silver? Yeah, silver dragon that he met. Yeah, Doshi. Maybe it's Doshi. I'm going to say it's Doshi. He's going to meet Doshi, and maybe they'll be part of his retinue. The thing is that even though his power of being able to look into the past and see ghostly figures of what transpired there, even though that sounds completely fucking useless, it's a really good narrative thing for an author to use.
Yeah, it's a really good narrative tool. That's why they gave it to the Moon Elves in the Dragon Prince. But I don't think that it's going to come up. The person he's helped before, I don't think it's necessarily going to come up in this book. They assigned that quest in book 2, and it apparently didn't get touched in book 3. I feel that quest is going to sit there until towards the end of the entire series. So it may not actually come up. I feel like it's really hard to make predictions on this.
They got assigned that quest in book 3 at the beginning of the book. They got the quest when they were trying to save the town.
The very, very, very beginning.
It had a 20-minute time limit, which expired, but then
and he immediately thought it would be Miriam. Maybe it's Miriam. He would have the resources to disappear before he lost his standing as prince so fast. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like it's really hard to make predictions because this is literally a different kingdom that he himself said, nobody here knows me. On the other side of the planet, it's literally the other side of the planet. So it is too hard to make predictions. I do not have enough information about the state of the world over here. I don't even know if they have dragons. They're apparently... So one thing we skipped real fast because it was like half a chapter, the smallest of scenes that led to nothing. There was another race, not human, that came to the Free Hive to buy buy armor. and Brixaby sells a lot of the chainmail that he was grinding out to level up to him, and just makes some more money that way. And he just mentions that in his kingdom there are no dragons, so they just fight each other, right? So the point is like precedent is set. Don't even know if this kingdom has dragons. Don't even know if they're humans. Who knows what's going on over here? My initial prediction I wanted to make was that the main story taking place in a very Western European type of setting with, castles, and the dragon riders are basically taking the place of knights, I guess. But it's very Western in its theming, right? Dukes, barons, kings, all that. It's so easy at that point to say the kingdom on the other side of the world is Eastern themed. It's going to be an emperor. The dragons here are going to be very, very long boys. The long, yeah. So like, I just want to see if we're just going to go that route. Is this kingdom going to be very Eastern themed, very tea ceremony and whatnot? All the tropes that you put into a fantasy China. We're going to see the noodle dragons, but the point is, I don't even know if there's going to be dragons in this kingdom. Do you think there's going to be dragons here?
Yes. No. You know what? Because it seems like a weird throwaway thing for they introduced a new I'm going to say a new race that are potentially
It felt like elves to me.
It felt like elves, but like weirder elves. They have longer forearms. They're bald. They have pointed ears. They have fangs, and whatever. But the Free Hive was selling weapons to this guy who was of this race, and they mentioned that they don't have dragons where they came from. That they fight with swords and shields, like quote unquote normal, I guess.
Yeah, so you don't think there's going to be dragons in this new kingdom?
Nope. I bet you it's going to be the kingdom where that Brixby, discovered that person comes from. I bet you it's going to be that.
I
No
feel like that's
dragons.
a long way to go to trade with a Free Hive for some chainmail.
It is on the other side of the world. Well, no, he teleported. He could just teleport.
Right, but that was he copied that card, and that card was Return Home. It's the same set as Return to Start. It's just Return Home, meaning he can teleport back home. He can't teleport to their hive.
That's true. I don't
Which
know.
means he's got to die to give Arthur the set card.
The thing is that the ending of book 3 made me so upset with not resolving anything at all. Like, fine, the Mind Singer gets away, but at least kill off like a villain or two. Have Penn show up for a final fight or some shit. Anything.
Really, it comes down to how many books do they want this series to be. If this book was like 5, then yeah, one of the ends should be tied up in this book. If this book is going to be 9 books long, just because I don't know, Temeraire is 9 books long, so maybe this one's also 9 books long. Maybe they're trying to copy Temeraire. Heck, they're going to another kingdom to see what their dragons are like. After all, that's very Temeraire-esque. If it's 9 books long, then yeah, they can afford to have book 3 tie up nothing. In fact, book 4 can tie up nothing. Book 5 could tie up nothing. That would start to drag on for you. I get that, but if what the author is going for is to eventually have him go to the other 4 kingdoms, because there's only 5 mythics left, and they start in Kingdom 1. So if he's going to go to the other 4 and just see what they're like, see what their kings and their mythics are like, maybe learn some trick that they know, like how he learned rune crafting from the Free Hives here. Maybe it turns out that this kingdom can set runes on the ground just like traps or something. I don't know. If he's going to go that way, then I could just see that being basically the next 4 books before we finally come back home and start to actually tie up some of the loose ends, start to actually wipe out some of the villains. I hope there's dragons, and I hope they're noodles. I hope they're long boys. Or at least just differently shaped dragons. They don't need to be long if they don't want to do Eastern inspired. They could be wyverns because this kingdom is set in like a jungle or something. They could have feathers. They could be completely wingless because maybe they build their homes in the mountains. I don't know. I want them to be dragons, and I want them to be differently shaped.
They didn't even like mention anything about the kingdom. Like, he just showed up in a new kingdom and was like, "Yay!" And they didn't describe the scenery, the buildings, the people, like nothing. So it's like, yeah, I guess it could be anything at this point.
Yeah. So no predictions, but that's my hope. All right. I guess that's the end of that. So thank you for joining us, everybody. For let's face it, it was pretty rant filled episode this time, just because I feel like this book was very controversial. I didn't like some of the plot points. Bantam didn't like a lot of the refusal of tying up loose ends. It's a very controversial book. I'm looking forward to book 4. If we cover it or not is going to depend. I will actually have to re-scout that out to see if it's worth doing yet, or if we should wait till there's more to cover, Right?
Yeah.
Like how the first episode we did book 1 and 2 together.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, so thanks for coming and joining us. If you want to at me for anything that came up, anything from the way I pronounce Capri Sun to my thoughts on communist societies in fantasy books, or even if killing off dragon hatchlings is okay. Ray, you're thinking too much about this. You're just Bantam. How can they come and yell at me?
All right. So we have an email. It is wadpodcastmail@gmail.com. And the Discord will be linked in the show notes. And we also have a Patreon at patreon.com/World of Dragons podcast to help us afford to keep this podcast going.
Yeah.
And if you do $5 a month, you can be in here and talking with us live while we record.
Yeah, if you do $10 a month, we give you a little shout out. Like right now, I think I'm going to double check. Yeah, I think he's the only one. I'm just double checking that. I'm not going to miss anybody. So right now, our elite guard, Tracenix, thank you for supporting us. We value it.
Tricenix. Yeah.
Tricenix.
I'm the one who keeps fucking it up and saying Tricenix.
I say Tricenix when I can, but you just said Tricenix now, which threw me off. So I'm blaming you.
Yeah.
Just thinking. I just had a thought, like, what if we allowed $10 patrons to, like, write a little sentence that we say on their behalf? You can put words in my mouth for $10 a month. Come on.
It's like the epic movie guy. Give me stuff to say in my epic voice.
No, I'll think about it. Just need more enticements. Anyway, so yeah. So that's where you can get in contact with us. Discord's, of course, the easiest, but we do check our email. Next episode was going to be the game Dragon Island, but we're putting that off for a bit. Mostly because I didn't like the game. So we're doing a movie for Bantam to make it easy. We're doing a movie.
We're gonna be doing Damsel,
which is apparently relatively new. Came out a couple months ago, I think.
A couple weeks ago.
Couple months by the time you hear this episode.
Yeah.
Backlog. But yeah, after which we will be doing a book, a physical book, one that does not have an audio version. Because we were given review copies by the author.
Oh, right.
Yep.
I withdraw my and just lower it down to a
Yeah. Smash the World Shell by Danielle Fliederbaum. Even so, because movies are easy, I'm going to start reading it now. It gives me a month to get through it because, like we said before, less reading time than we have listening time. So I'm going to give that a start, but that's what we're doing after the movie.
Yep. Yeah, we changed up our forecast for what we wanted to do because we were going to do Dragon Island, but Dragon Island, spoiler alert, is not good.
It's not
so
good.
I first of all, I asked for review copies from the author because I was able to reach out to him, and where I reached out to him, it shows me whether or not the author read my message, which he did, and no response.
He got left on red, so now
I got left on red, and it's like, whatever, fine, but like I'm not going to spend $15 to not enjoy my time. So I'm going to family share off of Ray and play it when we eventually get to that. But at this point, it's been knocked down a couple episodes because we're just not excited to do it.
I had high hopes for the game, but it was definitely lacking, and I'll get into that when we cover it.
Yep.
Anyway, thanks again, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.